In the sweltering heat of a Jamaican sugar plantation in the late 1700s, likely around 1775, though records from such shadowed lives were rarely kept with precision, Amina moved like a ghost through the big house, her bare feet silent on the polished wooden floors. She was now 19, her once vibrant spirit dulled by years of servitude, but her resolve had sharpened like a machete against the grindstone. Born into bondage on the same estate, she had been torn from her mother's arms at 5, forced into the fields where the sun scorched her skin and the overseer's whip cracked like thunder. By 6, her beauty had condemned her to the house, where she tended to the master's wife, a frail Englishwoman who viewed her with thinly veiled suspicion. At 14, the master, an Irishman named Patrick O'Connor, with a temper as fiery as his homeland's legends, had begun his nocturnal visits to the cellar where Amina slept on a pallet of straw. Those unwanted encounters birthed Emily, a child whose pale skin, gray eyes, and shock of red hair marked her as unmistakably his daughter, a living testament to his sins. Emily, whom Amina secretly called Abenga-epeng in the tongue of her African ancestors, meaning the horn's call, a symbol of freedom and warning, grew into a spirited 5-year-old. But life on the plantation was a crucible of cruelty for her, amplified by the deep-seated divisions among the enslaved. Colorism festered like an open wound in Jamaican slave society, a legacy of the plantation system's hierarchies where lighter-skinned individuals, often the offspring of white masters and enslaved women, were granted relative privileges. These mulattoes, as they were derisively called, were more likely to work in the house rather than the brutal fields, spared the worst of the labor but burdened with resentment from their darker-skinned kin. The pure African-descended slaves, toiling under the relentless sun cutting cane or boiling sugar in the infernal mills, viewed the lighter ones as extensions of the master's favor, house slaves who might betray them for scraps of mercy. For Emily, this animosity manifested in daily torments. The other slave children, egged on by their parents' whispered grievances, shunned her at every turn. "White devils spawn, they'd hiss as they played in the dirt yards behind the slave quarters, pelting her with small stones or clumps of mud when the overseers weren't looking. One boy, a sturdy lad named Kofi, whose family had been shipped from the Gold Coast, once pushed her into a puddle, laughing as her pale dress soiled. "You think you better than us? Master gonna make you his pet, but you still slave like the rest." Even the adults, exhausted from dawn to dusk labor, directed their ire at the child. An elder woman, scarred from years in the fields, would mutter curses in patois as Amina passed with Emily in tow. "Dat picni too white fi live, mongui. She bring trouble." Amina shielded her daughter as best she could, teaching her to stay close and avoid the communal fires at night, but the isolation gnawed at them both. Emily's screams of protest only drew more scorn, her red hair a beacon that invited mockery. "Ghost child," they'd call her, implying she was unnatural, a harbinger of bad luck in a world already steeped in suffering. And so begins the story of Abenga-epeng, daughter of a slave. The catalyst: Amina endured it all in silence. The taunts, the torments, her heart aching for the daughter she loved fiercely. She knew the privileges of lighter skin were illusory, manumission was rare, and even freed mulattoes faced societal scorn. But the resentment was real, rooted in the divide-and-conquer tactics of the planters. Masters deliberately favored mixed-race slaves for domestic roles, fostering jealousy to prevent unified rebellion. Yet Amina dreamed of escape, whispering stories of the Maroons to Emily under the cover of night. The Maroons were legendary, descendants of Africans who had fled Spanish and then British bondage since the 1650s, establishing free communities in the island's rugged interior. Abenga-epeng, a leeward Maroon town in the cockpit country of St. Elizabeth Parish, was a beacon of hope. Founded in the 1730s amid the First Maroon War, it was named after a leader from the Akan people of Ghana, a place where runaway slaves could join guerrilla fighters who had signed a 1739 treaty with the British for autonomy. There, Amina believed, Emily could grow free from the chains of color and caste. The catalyst came one humid evening as Amina served dinner in the big house. Hidden behind a partition, polishing silver, she overheard the master in heated conversation with his overseer, a brutish Scot named McTavish. "The girl's turning 5 next week," O'Connor slurred, his voice thick with rum. Word spreading in Kingston. Folk whispering she's mine. Can't have that scandal ruining trade deals. Sell her off quiet-like to that planter in Spanish Town. He'll pay top coin for a light-skinned house girl. Say she's from good Irish stock or some rot. McTavish chuckled darkly. "Aye, before the wife gets wind and causes a fuss. Ship her out Monday after the market." Amina's blood ran cold. Selling Emily meant separation forever, perhaps to a fate worse than her own, as mixed-race girls were often groomed for concubinage or worse. The master's unwanted visits had scarred Amina. She wouldn't let history repeat. That night, as the plantation slept under a canopy of stars, she made her decision. Freedom or death, no middle ground. Want more videos like this? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow our Facebook and TikTok pages. Thank you for watching.